August 2008, Chelyabinsk, Russia. A former Green Beret sits across from two GRU officers. He pulls out a list. 6 names. All Green Berets. Men who trusted him with their lives. He slides it across the table. Peter Debbins spent 23 years working for Russian intelligence. He signed a pledge to Moscow before he even joined the army. The GRU gave him a code name, IkarLesnikov. They told him to join special forces, earn top-secret clearance, then gave the Russians everything: unit structures, classified operations, and the identities of 15 American soldiers. So how did a Russian mole infiltrate the Green Berets undetected for 2 decades? December 1996. Chelyabinsk, Russia. A 21-year-old American college student walks into a hotel room. 2 men wait inside. They pour him a drink. The conversation feels casual, friendly, but these men work for the GRU, Russian military intelligence. Peter Debbins enrolled in ROTC, plans to become a U.S. Army officer, but he also has a Russian fiancée. Her father serves as a colonel in the Russian Air Force, and Debbins keeps returning to Russia. Every summer, the GRU notices. They decide to test him. The officers ask a simple favor. A local Catholic church has 4 American nuns. Find their names. Debbins agrees. He visits the church, gathers the names, returns to the GRU with the information. The Russians see potential. This young American plans to join the U.S. military. He speaks fluent Russian, and he just proved he will follow orders. They invite him back. More dinners. The GRU officers tell Debbins he has a special role to play. They offer him gifts: a bottle of cognac, $1,000 cash. He refuses the money, but he keeps talking. In 1997, Debbins returns to Russia after graduation. The GRU officers sit him down. They assign him a code name, IkarLesnikov. Then they slide a piece of paper across the table, a pledge. Debbins picks up a pen, signs his name. The statement reads, "I want to serve Russia." He just committed treason. Before wearing a U.S. Army uniform for a single day, the GRU gives him instructions. They want him to pursue a military career, not just any career, special forces, the Green Berets. They also teach him tradecraft, how to communicate in emergencies. If Debbins needs to contact his handlers, he sends a postcard, uses his code name, writes a simple message, "Happy Victory Day" or "Happy Mother's Day." The GRU will understand. Debbins calls himself a son of Russia. He believes the United States has grown too powerful. America needs to be cut down to size. The GRU records every word. Debbins reports for active duty in the U.S. Army in July. Swears to defend the Constitution against all enemies, foreign and domestic. But he already serves a foreign enemy. The GRU has a long-term asset now. Patient, obedient, motivated by ideology, not money. The perfect mole. They instruct him to climb the ranks, gain access, gather intelligence, and wait for further orders. Debbins follows the plan. His first assignment sends him overseas. South Korea, a young lieutenant with a secret. Russian intelligence expects a full report. October 1998, South Korea. Lieutenant Peter Debbins arrives at the 4th Chemical Company. His unit handles biological, chemical, radiological, and nuclear threats. Classified information, exactly what the GRU wants. Debbins acts immediately. During leave, he travels to Russia, meets his handlers, sits across from them in a safe location, then delivers his first military intelligence report. He tells them everything: the number of men in his platoon, their mission, how the unit operates. The GRU writes it all down. Their investment in the young American officer starts paying dividends. Debbins returns to the United States, applies for selection. The grueling assessment weeds out most candidates. Physical endurance, mental toughness. Debbins survives. In 2001, he enters the Special Forces Qualification Course. Months of advanced training, unconventional warfare, foreign internal defense, counterterrorism. He graduates, earns the Green Beret. The GRU now has an asset inside America's most elite Special Operations Unit. June 2003. Captain Peter Debbins reports to the 1st Battalion, 10th Special Forces Group in Stuttgart, Germany. His unit conducts operations across Europe, the the Caucasus and former Soviet republics. He commands an A-team, 12 soldiers under his leadership. They trust their captain completely. The Army grants Debbins top-secret clearance with sensitive compartmented information access. TSSCI, the highest level. He can now see America's most guarded secrets. That same year, Debbins flies to Russia again, meets his GRU handlers. They want details about the 10th Special Forces Group. He provides everything: the number of companies in the battalion, their locations across Europe, their specific roles and capabilities, unit structure from top to bottom. The GRU now possesses a complete blueprint of an elite American Special Operations unit. For payment, Debbins accepts a bottle of cognac and a Russian military uniform. He still refuses cash. This makes him more valuable to Moscow. A true believer costs less and stays loyal longer. The handlers teach him how to beat polygraph tests. They know the Americans screen for security clearances. Debbins must pass every examination. He learns, he practices, he defeats the machine. His next deployment sends him to Azerbaijan. The former Soviet Republic borders Russia and Iran. His unit also handles missions in neighboring Georgia, sensitive territory, close to Russian interests. The GRU watches their asset with great interest. Then Debbins makes a mistake. He brings his Russian wife to Azerbaijan, relocates her to the deployment zone, gives her a US government cell phone. Direct violations of security protocol. The Army investigates, removes him from command, suspends his security clearance. 7 years of espionage and a security violation ends his military career. Not because anyone discovered his Russian handlers, just carelessness with his wife. November 2005. Debbins receives an honorable discharge, walks away from the Army with his secret intact. The Green Beret captain moves through his entire career without suspicion of Russian intelligence ties. He returns to civilian life, takes a job with a Ukrainian steel company, then a transportation firm. The GRU stays quiet, lets their assets settle into a normal routine. But Debbins grows bitter. His career ended in disgrace. All those years climbing the ranks, gone. Resentment builds inside him. And in 2008, he decides to make the Russians pay attention again. August 2008, 3 years since his discharge, Peter Debbins boards a flight to Chelyabinsk. He tells himself the trip involves business opportunities, a chance to make money in the Russian market. But something darker drives him across the ocean. Bitterness consumes the former Green Beret. One security violation erased 7 years of service. Now he works ordinary jobs in Minnesota, a far cry from leading special operations missions. The GRU welcomes him back. 2 handlers wait in Chelyabinsk, one named Ivan. The other goes only by Mr. X. They sit with Debbins in a secure location, listen to his frustrations, pour drinks, let him vent about the Americans who destroyed his career. They understand how to transform anger into cooperation. Then they ask questions. Debbins describes everything his Special Forces team accomplished in Azerbaijan. Classified operations along the Russian border, training missions with foreign militaries, intelligence collection activities throughout the Caucasus, methods his unit employed to gather information on regional threats, relationships Green Berets cultivated with local security forces. Every operational detail he remembers flows freely. Georgia receives the same treatment. His unit operated there during a critical period. Just weeks before this meeting, Russian forces invaded Georgian territory, a 5-day war that redrew regional boundaries. Russian tanks rolled within striking distance of the capital. The GRU now seeks detailed understanding of American military presence in a country they just attacked. Debbins provides exactly what they need. He calls his former unit Rumsfeld's spies, explains how Green Berets operated from American embassies in both countries, describes the friction between CIA officers and State Department personnel in the region, internal conflicts that weakened American effectiveness, the kind of insight that helps Moscow exploit divisions within the US government. But Debbins offers something far more dangerous than operational details. He offers names, 6 of them. Former teammates from the 10th Special Forces Group, men who trusted their captain with their lives. He provides their identities to Russian military intelligence, describes each soldier's specialty and expertise, suggests which ones might cooperate with foreign intelligence services under the right circumstances. One name receives special attention. Debbins identifies a specific Green Beret the GRU should approach. A soldier with continuing access to sensitive programs. Someone potentially willing to turn. He provides a recruitment blueprint for his own teammate. The betrayal extends beyond special forces. Debbins reveals a military intelligence officer he worked alongside during deployments, another American whose name now sits in GRU files. Then comes the most damaging disclosure. Debbins knows the CIA station chief in one of the countries where his team operated, the most senior American intelligence officer in that nation, the person responsible for coordinating all CIA activities across an entire country. Debbins gives the Russians a first name, enough to endanger the station chief and every asset connected to that officer. By the end of his meetings, 15 to 20 American special operators exist in GRU files, a complete target list for Russian intelligence to exploit over coming years, some for recruitment, others for surveillance, all now known to a hostile foreign power. Debbins returns to Minnesota. The handlers send him off with instructions: stay available, seek opportunities in Washington, position himself for future access. The GRU has bigger plans for their asset. Debbins transformed personal grievance into a weapon. The army embarrassed him, so he endangered everyone who ever served beside him. Resentment became treason, and the GRU still wants more. January 2010, a letter arrives at Peter Debbins's Minnesota home. The U.S. Army Central Personnel Security Clearance Facility has reviewed his case. Despite the Azerbaijan incident, the adjudicator grants him a top-secret clearance with sensitive compartmented information access. The door to American intelligence swings wide open. Debbins contacts his handlers. The GRU responds with new orders. Forget business ventures. A far more valuable opportunity exists. Penetrate the U.S. intelligence community. Get inside the CIA, the NSA. Wherever access leads, Moscow wants their asset deeper than ever before. Debbins obeys. He relocates from Minnesota to Northern Virginia, settles in the Washington suburbs. Every major intelligence agency operates within 30 miles of his new home. He positions himself at the center of American secrets. His first target, the Central Intelligence Agency. 4 applications land at Langley. Different positions, different departments, all offering access to classified programs on Russian operations. He presents himself as a former Special Forces captain with deployment experience in former Soviet republics. Fluent Russian speaker, regional expert, the perfect candidate for Russian analysis positions. The CIA rejects him. Debbins pivots immediately. 17 applications flood the National Security Agency. Fort Meade houses America's signals intelligence empire. Access here would give the GRU visibility into how Americans monitor Russian communications. Priceless intelligence. The NSA also passes, but the intelligence community extends far beyond government agencies. Thousands of private contractors support classified programs. They need analysts, instructors, subject matter experts. Security clearances transfer between employers. Debbins finds his entry point through the back door. The 902nd Military Intelligence Group hires him as a contractor. The unit operates from Fort Meade, just across the parking lot from NSA headquarters. Their mission? Counterintelligence. Detecting foreign spies targeting the U.S. Army, identifying insider threats, protecting military secrets from adversaries exactly like the GRU. Debbins now works inside the organization, hunting people like himself. For 3 years, he serves as a senior Russian cyber analyst supporting Army counterintelligence operations. He reads classified assessments on Russian intelligence methods, studies how American investigators identify foreign assets, learns which behaviors trigger suspicion, understands what mistakes other spies made before getting caught. The GRU receives an education in American counterintelligence tradecraft. Their asset tells them exactly how to avoid detection. His access expands in 2014. Booz Allen Hamilton brings him aboard, one of the largest defense contractors in America. His new assignment, Russian cyber analyst for the Defense Intelligence Agency. The DIA produces intelligence assessments for military commanders and policymakers. They analyze Russian military capabilities, track Russian operations worldwide. Debbins touches material covering Russian armed forces, cyber operations, electronic warfare, Military strategy, information the GRU would pay millions to obtain. Their asset reads it for free, every workday, for years. His reputation grows. He earns a master's degree in strategic and international studies, becomes an instructor, lectures on Russian cyber operations, teaches courses on Kremlin influence campaigns, trains young professionals seeking intelligence careers. Students trust his expertise. Nobody questions the former Green Beret who speaks fluent Russian and served in the Caucasus. European Command and NATO request his services. He travels overseas, briefs allied military officers on Russian hybrid warfare, explains how Moscow conducts information operations, describes Kremlin's strategy against Western democracies. The irony reaches absurd levels. A GRU asset stands before NATO officers, teaching them about Russian threats, warning them about exactly what he represents. His ambition peaks in 2017. The White House seeks staff for the National Security Council. One position catches his attention: Special Assistant to the President and Senior Director for Russia and Central Asia, direct access to the Oval Office, influence over American policy toward Moscow. Debbins submits his candidacy. The application fails, but the attempt reveals how far the GRU's patient strategy reached. 20 years after signing his pledge in Chelyabinsk, IkarLesnikov nearly touched the presidency. American security systems fail at every checkpoint. Background investigators miss the warning signs. Adjudicators restore clearances that should remain permanently revoked. Polygraph examiners detect nothing year after year. The GRU builds their asset methodically. Impatience produces access beyond their original expectations. But every operation carries risk. Every deception eventually unravels. Debbins defeats polygraph after polygraph, until one summer day, the machine catches something his training cannot hide. July 2019. A windowless room at a government facility. A polygraph examiner sits across from Peter Debbins. Electrodes attached to his body. Routine questions begin. The security clearance reinvestigation requires updated screening. Debbins has beaten this test before, multiple times across 2 decades. He knows the techniques, controls his breathing, manages his physiological responses. But something goes wrong. The needle jumps at unexpected moments. The examiner notices anomalies in the readings. After 23 years of successful deception, the machine catches something hidden beneath the surface. Debbins fails the polygraph. The FBI Counterintelligence Division opens an investigation. Agents begin pulling records. Travel history reveals trips to Russia spanning decades. Financial documents show no explanation for certain expenses. Communication records contain gaps that demand answers. His personnel file contains the Azerbaijan security violation. Each fact alone proves nothing. Together, they form a pattern investigators cannot ignore. Agents dig deeper. They review his employment history since leaving the Army. Every position touched sensitive intelligence about the very country his wife came from. The very country he visited repeatedly. The FBI brings Debbins in for questioning. 20 hours of interviews stretch across multiple sessions. Experienced interrogators ask careful questions. They already possess enough evidence to suspect espionage. What they need now is confirmation. Details only Debbins can provide. A confession that seals the case. Debbins breaks under the pressure. On July 11, 2019, he writes a 4-page statement in his own handwriting. The confession flows across the pages. The FBI continues building the case. His lawyers mount a defense strategy. They claim the GRU blackmailed their client, threatened to expose his attraction to men during an era when such revelations destroyed military careers. They argue psychological manipulation over many years, coercion through concerns about his wife's family remaining in Russia, mental illness clouding his judgment and decision-making. Prosecutors demolish every excuse systematically. In 20 hours of FBI interviews, Debbins never mentioned blackmail. Not once. His original explanation remains documented in official records. Ideology motivated his espionage from the beginning. Resentment over his failed military career fueled the worst betrayals. The GRU simply provided direction and opportunity. Blackmail played no role. August 21, 2020, FBI agents arrive at a residential street in Gainesville, Virginia. They approach the front door. Place Peter Debbins under arrest. Charge him with conspiracy to gather or deliver defense information to aid a foreign government. The Espionage Act carries severe penalties. He faces life in federal prison. November 18, 2020. Debbins stands before Judge Claude Hilton in the Eastern District of Virginia, Alexandria Federal Courthouse. He enters a guilty plea to 1 count of conspiracy to commit espionage. The admission ends any possibility of trial, any chance to contest the evidence. He accepts responsibility for 23 years of betrayal. "I have suffered in lonely silence for 25 years," he tells the court. He warns that cooperation with American prosecutors now endangers his safety. The GRU does not forgive exposure. The GRU does not make threats, he says. They keep promises. May 14th, 2021. Sentencing day arrives. Prosecutors request 17 years. They argue the damage extends beyond any specific secret he passed. Russia successfully placed a recruited agent inside the Green Berets, a propaganda victory that undermines trust in American Special Operations Forces. The betrayal damages military cohesion, creates suspicion among soldiers who must trust each other completely. Judge Hilton delivers the sentence: 188 months, 15 years and 8 months in federal prison. The Bureau of Prisons assigns him to ADX Florence, the federal supermax facility in Colorado. Inmates include terrorists who bombed American targets, drug lords, spies. Debbins joins their ranks. His former teammates live with permanent consequences. 15 to 20 Green Berets exist in GRU files because their commander sold their identities. They face travel restrictions, security monitoring, constant awareness that Russian intelligence knows their names, skills, and vulnerabilities. Peter Debbins wore the Green Beret for 7 years, commanded American soldiers in sensitive operations, held their lives in his hands during dangerous deployments. They trusted him completely. He repaid that trust with a list of their names on a table in Chelyabinsk. The GRU's patience produced remarkable results, but patience also requires luck. And in July 2019, luck finally ran out for IkarLesnikov.